Good evening, everyone. I am going to have presentation on the topic of comparative analysis of energy sectors in post-Soviet countries, case studies of Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan. As an introduction, I want to mention that both Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan are former Soviet republics and one of the Caspian Sea littoral states, which considered to be landlocked countries. Both countries' economy highly depends on energy sector. In fact, Turkmenistan is considered to be the fourth country with its gas reserves in the world, and hydrocarbon resources comprises for 90% of all exports, and it accounts for 44% of Turkmenistan's state budget revenues. Azerbaijan is also exporting more than 90% of oil and gas. Out of total export, 82% for oil and 9.1% for gas. This paper aims at analyzing the energy sectors in both countries after the independence periods and find out how it developed after the collapse of Soviet Union. Main argument is that both countries tried to diversify their energy sectors and reduce dependence on single market, which was Russia, but ended up in different results. Azerbaijan is the world's oldest oil-producing country, and the first fields were discovered in the mid of 19th century. In 2008, it had been estimated that Azerbaijan has 7 billion barrels of crude oil and 1.37 trillion cubic meters of natural gas. 80% of total oil is exported from Azeri, Chorak, Güneshli fields. Due to the abundance of its natural resources, Azerbaijan is considered one of the fastest growing countries in the whole world in past 2 decades after it declared its independence. Starting from 1995 up to 2015, the real GDP increased nearly 6 times in Azerbaijan. Oil production reached its peak in 2010 with 51 million tons, and after it declined to 39 million tons. Unlike oil, gas production increased from 6 million cubic meters up to 37 million during these years. However, development of oil and gas sector in Azerbaijan was not an easy process. In 1991, when Azerbaijan declared its independence, the economy of the newly formed country was in chaos, and government's main aim was to increase its economy by using different resources, mainly oil and natural gas. But Azerbaijan lacked necessary financial and technical infrastructure for developing energy sector. There was conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh with Armenia, disagreement on legal status of the Caspian Sea, and neighboring countries such as Iran and Russia did not want influence and attraction of Western companies in the region. There was also lack of the United States' interest on investing in Azerbaijan thanks to Armenian lobby. However, when Heydar Aliyev came to power in the country, he managed these problems due to his smart policy. In 1994, Contract of the Century was signed. It was an agreement containing product sharing agreement on the getting oil from Azeri Chorak Güneshli platforms between Azerbaijan and consortium of foreign oil companies. Different companies got different shares from this agreement, and partner companies were SOCAR, British Petroleum, Russian Lukoil, also Norway Statoil, and Turkey or Saudi Arabia got different shares from this contract. Exportation of oil to the European market was not an easy process. There were different options on the table on how to export the oil from Azerbaijan to the European market. Construction of the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline, which carries oil from Azeri-Chorak and deep-water Güneshli fields and condensate from Shah Deniz across Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey. It links Sangachal terminal on the shores of Caspian Sea to Ceyhan Marine Terminal on the Turkish Mediterranean coast. Due to the capacity of the pipeline consists of 1.2 million barrels of oil per day. Main result of construction of this pipeline, which resulted in transportation of oil via bypassing Russia, led to decrease of the role of Baku-Novorossiysk pipeline, and consequently Russia's role and influence in the region was affected. Choosing the route for the transportation of oil was not an easy task, as there were different proposals on the table. First one was using Baku-Novorossiysk pipeline, and the second option was using Baku-Supsa pipeline. Russia was in favor of the first option, which would allow great power to have control over the oil exportation from Azerbaijan, but western route was chosen by many western companies, especially by the US. Decline in oil production have different reasons. The first of all, Europe started to decrease oil import nearly 20%, deciding to apply more environmentally friendly resources like wind and solar energy. Azerbaijan in its side reduced production and export of oil due to dropping prices in oil sector and OPEC's decision on the relevant field. Oil reserves in the fields were falling considerably as a result of huge amount of extraction of oil early 1990s. Development of gas sector in the Republic of Azerbaijan happened with the discovery of Shah Deniz field in 1999. Shah Deniz project was developed with the British Petroleum and capacity of it was 10 billion cubic meters annually. Later it was extended to Shah Deniz 2 project, and while first one export natural gas to Turkey and Georgia, later is intended to export it to European markets. Gas sector in Azerbaijan was affected by the mainly following reasons. Prices for gas are less fluctuable compared with oil prices, and unlike oil markets, producers have predetermined consumers even before the extraction of natural resources. For the exportation of natural gas from Azerbaijan, major point was to decide how to implement it. In early 1990s, official Moscow was impeding all projects intended to transport hydrocarbon resources to Europe, referring to the environmental degradation of the region and unresolved status of the Caspian Sea. Due to lack of infrastructure, there was a lot of debate on how to transport Azerbaijan natural gas to the European markets. Up to 2006, natural gas from Shah Deniz field was transported to Turkey and Georgia via South Caucasus pipeline. During that time, Europe was highly dependent on gas export from Russia, and due to gas crisis between Russia and Ukraine, which was interconnected between Russia and Europe, EU was interested in diminishing its dependence on Russia and was seeking for alternatives. There were several options on transportation of Azerbaijan gas to European markets. They were Nabucco West, interconnected Turkey, Greece, Italy, Southeast Europe pipeline, TANAP, and Trans-Adriatic pipeline. But not all of them were considered successful enough in terms of investment and capacity. Nabucco West was a project which was aimed at diversification of energy routes in Europe and was seen as a rival to the South Stream pipeline project. Pipeline intended to deliver Azerbaijan natural gas to Central Europe, and expected capacity of the project was 31 BCM annually. Azerbaijan was not interested in investing to this project, and also there was huge pressure and competition from Russia's side, which was also exporting its natural gas on European markets. Another reason for the failure of the project was high transit costs, as it was expected to pass through many countries which demanded for transition fees. Second option was interconnected Turkey, Greece, Italy. The idea was not to build new pipeline, but use different existing pipelines in order to transport gas to European markets via Greece and Italy. Capacity of this pipeline was not so huge, and its length was more than 800 kilometers. That is why it was complex and risky pipeline. Also, transit countries like Greece, Turkey, Italy had to be paid transit fees. Also, fragile relations between Turkey and Greece made this project to be unsuccessful and not completed. Southeast Europe pipeline was one of the options for the Europe in its natural gas diversification policy and was proposed by BP. This pipeline aimed at allowing Azerbaijan to supply Europe with the 10 BCM gas annually, mainly from Shah Deniz 2 field, but the project also failed. TANAP and a Trans-Adriatic pipeline TAP is a part of Southern Gas Corridor. The internet was financed by SOCAR, Potash and BP. Capacity of the pipeline is 15 bcm annually, and 5 bcm of it will go to Turkey. TAP will carry us 10 bcm to Europe as a continuation of TANAP. In terms of construction, TAP is worthy as it is much shorter, and also this pipeline passes through 3 countries only, Greece, Albania and Italy, which reduces additional transition costs. Azerbaijan is oil and gas exporting country, and its economy highly depends on oil. It suffers also from resource costs. It's a very challenging situation for many oil-rich countries in case when they focus only on one sector and ignore other sectors of economy. The main reason for Azerbaijan's suffrage from changing oil prices is with diversification of other sectors of economy. Problematic issue is that spending of the revenues obtained from oil exports is directed to the non-tradable sectors, and it causes them to be more sensitive to the sharp fall of oil prices. Fluctuation in oil prices and significant drop in prices in 2016 also negatively affected to the economy of the country and causes depreciation of the manat. Well, I would like to continue with the Turkmenistan's energy projects. Turkmenistan is also landlocked countries in Central Asia, which became part of the Soviet Union in 1925 and declared its independence in 1991 as a result of dissolution of the Soviet Union. As mentioned, Turkmenistan has considerable huge gas reserves, highest in the world in the whole region after Russia. The main reserves are located in east part and also in west part of the country. Main natural gas fields are in Amu Darya Basin, and 17 new gas fields were discovered in the recent 10 years after the collapse of Soviet Union. During early independence period, Turkmenistan's energy policy mainly aimed at prioritizing natural interests, and there was mainly a neutral approach towards the energy partners. Energy export was done with the help of other pipeline routes. Unlike Azerbaijan, which was creating favorable conditions for foreign companies for attracting foreign direct investments, Turkmen government failed to do so. Major reason of this were isolation policy and also not providing accurate data on natural resources. It was especially the case during Niyazov's presidency. The main problem of Turkmenistan's energy sector is that areas are not linked to any pipeline and are connected to different markets. During early post-independence period, gas exports were mainly conducted with the assistance of Russia through Soviet Central Asia Central Gas Pipeline System. The main reason of the challenge in the exportation of natural gas was isolation policy applied by the former President Niyazov. Also, investment environment in Turkmenistan was not attractive for foreign investors. International oil companies were allowed to have production sharing agreements strictly just in offshore fields, and on onshore fields they may have only contracts for technical service. This was not so profitable for attracting for FDI. One more problem with the foreign direct investment was the corruption issue, which exists in many post-Soviet countries. There is also lack of infrastructure for the successful transportation of Turkmen gas, which causes additional challenges in this sphere. That is why, at the early post-Soviet period, Turkmenistan was obliged to export its gas to Russia through Soviet pipeline system. In this table, you can see existing gas pipeline routes in the country and also proposed gas pipeline routes. Diversification of Turkmen energy policy started when Turkmenistan's relations with Russia deteriorated. Turkmenistan had unstable relations with Russia, and there was a lot of dispute in the energy sector regarding to the price of natural gas and some other economic disputes. Turkmenistan's isolation policy and increasing influence of the China in the region caused additional problems to the relations with Russia. As a result of this policy, Russia's attempt to make Turkmenistan to join to the CSTO and integrate into Eurasian Economic Union were not successful. In the early post-Soviet period, Turkmenistan's energy partner was Russia, and natural gas export to Russia increased, but it played only the role of transit country and transited Turkmenistan natural gas mainly to other former Soviet republics. Russia used to buy Turkmen gas and sell it in high price, which caused a price dispute between the two countries, and relations with Russia's Gazprom deteriorated. After it, Turkmenistan was obliged to find alternatives for its exports. The main aim of diversification of energy policy was to reduce Russia's influence and dependence on it. For this purpose, in 1997, Kuryepe-Kurtikuy gas pipeline with Iran was launched. It was the first initiative to diversify energy export, but it was a pipeline with limited capacity, only 6 million cubic meters gas per annually. The project has great importance for both sides. While Turkmenistan considered Iran as a partner for exporting its energy resources and also a transit country for expanding the export to the European market, Iran on its side mainly used Turkmenistan as a partner for balancing the US policy against it. As both countries share borders through land and maritime, this cooperation was quite successful at the early stage, but later deteriorated, and there were several tensions which resulted in total cut of export. In 2009, Central Asia China gas pipeline was launched. It could considerably reduce dependence on Russia. Until 2009, main part of Turkmen gas, nearly 90%, was delivered with the help of Russian pipeline. This project also was successful from regional cooperation perspective. As Turkmenistan does not have border with China, this pipeline also involves such countries as Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan as suppliers and Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan as transit countries. While analyzing the impact of the project to the energy sector of Turkmenistan, it can be inferred that at the initial step it reduced Turkmen dependence on Russian market. If before the project Turkmenistan was exporting 42 BCM gas to Russia, after the launch of this pipeline, this number dropped to 10 BCM. Besides it, Turkmenistan also cut gas export to Iran due to political and geopolitical reasons, and as a result, dependence on Russian markets was transformed to the dependence on Chinese markets. Another project for the diversification of Turkmen energy policy was Tapi pipeline, which intended to transport Turkmen gas from Galkinish field to Indian market, passing through unstable Afghanistan and India. The project was proposed in order to decrease Turkmen dependence on China export and because of growth in gas production. The first attempts to build this project failed because of the situation in Afghanistan. One of the initiators for the project was India, due to the need to diversify its energy supplies and reduce dependence on Iranian gas, especially when the US put sanctions against Iran. In April 2012, negotiations between India and Afghanistan over the fees that will be applied to the transition of natural gas through Afghan territory did not yield any results. Major challenge was to agree on the transition cost of the natural gas that will pass through Pakistan. Kashmir problem between India and Pakistan caused difficulties in reaching any deal. There is also strong competition for this pipeline by the Central Asia Chinese pipeline. Regarding to the relations of Turkmenistan with European Union, it can be said that European Union looks at Turkmenistan as an energy partner in order to decrease its reliance on Russian exports. Europeans expressed their agreements in Trans-Caspian route, which could eventually be an alternative energy supply for Europe. This became even more important when Russia-Ukraine crisis in 2006 left Europe without supply. In 2008, there was an agreement between EU and Turkmenistan on mutual cooperation in energy relations. In 2011, the European Commission received the mandate to negotiate a legally binding treaty with Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan for the construction of this strategic infrastructure. Crimea crisis in 2014 had severe consequences for European energy deals with Russia. That is why Trans-Caspian route became even more valuable for EU, but encountered several obstacles. Firstly, Russia and Iran were opposing to this project. Russia always saw the European market as its monopoly and never allowed any Central Asian country to have deals with its partner. Another tool in the hands of Russia for the impediment of this project was unresolved legal status of the Caspian Sea. Also, agreement in 2008 had put an end to some disputes. Political and commercial issues still remain on the table. Moreover, disputes between Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan on some oil and natural gas fields also is an obstacle to the implementation of this project. Alongside with all political challenges, there is also cost of transportation and economic aspects of the project. Cost of pipeline is around $2 billion, but major problem is high transportation costs. In fact, transportation of Azerbaijan gas to European markets is much cheaper than transportation of Turkmen gas. That is why this project does not seem realistic in near future. And this table shows the estimated cost of delivery of Turkmen gas to Turkey and European Union. Well, I would like to continue with the legal status of the Caspian Sea and how this issue affected to the energy sectors both in Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, a conflict began among Turkmenistan, Iran, Russia, Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan over the legal status and borders of the Caspian Sea. The main points of the dispute included the Caspian Sea has a legal status as lake or as an island. As a sea. If it's taken as a lake, then it must be divided in proportion to the total length of coastline. But in case of taken as a sea, central area must be identified and will have international status, meaning that the UN Convention on the Law of Sea must be applied. Two littoral states, Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan, have dispute over some fields in the southern parts of the Caspian Sea, mainly over Kapaz or Sardar field. This means that Turkmenistan and Azerbaijan need to have an agreement before constructing any pipeline linking two countries. In 1998, both Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan agreed to divide the Caspian Sea according to the median line principle, but difficulty arose in defining what exactly was median line. Another dispute was over the fields between Azerbaijan and Iran. Both countries could not decide over the exploitation of natural resources from Alov Aras Shark fields. Starting from 2000, Russia played an active role in the Caspian Sea, declaring that this region is of great importance for Russia. Russia proposed several approaches for the legal status of the Caspian Sea in 2001. They include: the first, Russia proposed that Caspian Sea must be divided into national sectors, but surface of the sea remains in the common usage for the all coastal countries. Only bottom of the Caspian Sea is divided into the sectors. The Caspian states' uniform platform must be created, and other issues connected to the legal status of the Caspian Sea must be solved by the help of these states. These approaches by Russia were not welcomed by Iran and Turkmenistan. Iran wanted to divide the Caspian Sea according to the principle of 5 equal parts, which was refused by Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan. The main reason for it was the case of equal distribution. Both Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan had to transfer some of their fields to Iran. On August 12, 2018, all 5 countries were able to sign an agreement on the legal status of the Caspian Sea, which gave to the Caspian Sea status neither a sea nor a lake, and it is considered a special status. All coastline countries were given 15 miles of sovereign waters and an additional 10 miles of fishing space. In regard to the common waters, exploitation of energy reserves in there needed approved from other states. But even this agreement was not able to solve all disputes among littoral countries, and disputes over exploitation of resources from some fields still remain open. In conclusion, it can be said that both Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan share common features. They are landlocked countries, and that's why energy deals of both countries highly depend on their neighboring countries. As these countries do not have access to open seas, exportation of natural resources is possible mainly via pipelines. In many cases, these pipelines go through neighboring countries in order to transport oil and gas to the international markets. Therefore, Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan always were seeking for the West in order to have good relations with all great powers, sustain cooperation with neighboring countries. Another major fact is reducing political and economic dependence on the transit countries. To sum up, Azerbaijan has implemented successful diversification policy in the energy sector, and it helped significantly to reduce dependence on neighboring countries. Development of Shah Deniz field enabled Azerbaijan to diversify its energy deals with European markets. Attraction of FDI to the country in 1990s caused development of energy sector, dependence on Russian markets was reduced considerably, and technical infrastructure was built. Turkmenistan also implemented different projects for diversification of its energy sectors, and main aim of these was reduce dependence on Russian markets. Russia used to control most export routes for natural gas from Turkmenistan even after the collapse of Soviet Union. Another fact which positively impacted on Turkmenistan energy sector was end of isolation policy after the end of presidency of Zafer Murat Niyazov. As a result, China became a major destination for Turkmen natural gas, and dependence on Russian markets was reduced. Export to Iran was ceased. Turkmenistan was not fully able at reducing its dependence on single markets, and energy projects with European Union do not seem real in near future. Another consequence of isolation policy is lack of infrastructure for delivering natural gas to different destinations, which is a result of absence of FDI in country for many years. This is bibliography that was used in order to uh, have this, and thank you for your attention.